And Ms. King, I say.
Hey everybody, it's me, Mrs. Dave the lawyer. I was on the phone with Dave the lawyer just now, but we are doing part 3 of the SPLC live stream. We have been doing the part 1 and part 2 yesterday and the day before, and I just have to share with you guys real quick. This setup is different than when Dave the lawyer was doing these streams. I am very into fitness. That's one of my hobbies and part of my career. And while I'm doing these live streams, I'm multitasking and I am on my walking pad. And I just have to tell you guys, I got in a ton of steps last night. I got in nearly 13,000 steps. The night before, almost 11,000. So I want to thank all of you guys that have been watching, helping me get my steps in. I'm interested to see how this hearing finishes up. If you see me on my phone during the stream, it's because I'm actually in the chat on my phone chatting with all of the viewers. So anyways, let's get this going. Let's hear what the rest of Congress and the SPLC has to say.
Say that in honor of your uncle's dear friend, Bayard Rustin. So we are talking about accelerationist neo-Nazi networks and 2 teenagers in San Diego who were inspired by them. And this is a hate-filled pipeline getting to our children. It's a pathway by which teenage boys and young men are drawn from mainstream platforms into these increasingly radicalized spaces where they are encountering content that glorifies hate, violence, and criminal activity. And to be fair, what happened at that mosque was a criminal act. I think it's curious that Republicans haven't had any of these groups come before this committee and prove that they are not spreading hate. Where are those hearings? But maybe my Republican colleagues are okay with having neo-Nazi extremist groups teaching your children or their children, but I'm not. We've also heard today that those with traditional Christian beliefs are being treated as threats and terrorists. We've heard a lot today about how the SPLC is anti-Christian. We're being told that the organization worked with the Biden administration to target traditional Catholics for their political and religious beliefs, and that the org discriminates against anyone with traditional or Christian views. I think those are lies. So speaking of lies, for the record, President Fair, do you maintain a domestic terrorist list?
We do not.
Okay. So Dr. King, for example, is not on this non-existent list. Is that true?
That is true. I'm not sure what list she's referring to.
Okay. Is she on a hate map?
No.
Okay. So per usual, the facts are being twisted to attack the SPLC and the work it does across this country to tackle hate groups and violent extremists, because SPLC actually dares to dissent against this administration, and therefore you all have a target on your back. But don't take my word for it. I have a video.
I've been hearing that there are people who think the SPLC is anti-Christian, and I really don't know what Bible they're reading, because my experience of the SPLC is that they help churches feed hungry families, they help struggling communities.
They informed me personally about need in our state, about a decrease of SNAP benefits, about hospital shortages.
And the work that we do in our community, and without SPLC and the knowledge that they bring, it would limit us to be able to serve and understand what our community needs are.
And certainly the values of SPLC in these more than 4 or 5 decades exemplify the values of the gospel: inclusion, solidarity, concern for the least among us, and a zeal for justice.
So I fully support and want the SPLC to be known for who they are in real time, in real life, because of what they do for others.
This video is such BS.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Not even
yields
good
back.
actors.
Gentleman from Alabama is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to the witnesses for being here today. Ms. King, great to see you again. I think you've done more to unite, I know in my region of the country, people than to divide them. and you've done it with a much smaller budget than some of the people you battle against. So thank you for your kind work. You've always got a wonderful heart and an amazing testimony, and your family's been a blessing to Alabama, and you've been a blessing to our family. So thank you for being here. The Southern Poverty Law Center is headquartered in Montgomery, Alabama, one of the most important cities in the history of the civil rights movement. But Montgomery is not a shield. The civil rights movement is not a fundraising costume, and Alabama donors are not an ATM. That history belongs to the men and women who marched, who prayed, who suffered, and changed this country. Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall has opened a civil investigation into the Southern Poverty Law Center under the Alabama Consumer Protection Act. The subpoena asks a straightforward question. When Alabama donors gave money to fight hate, were they told the truth about where that money could go? Southern Poverty Law Center has spent years putting labels on other people. It has even used hate watch to target me. As a matter of fact, I think the reason I'm on the list, and there's 11 congressmen on this list, is because we simply put a flag in front of our office and encourage the people to pray for this nation. It's called the Appeal to Heaven flag. Somehow or another, I became a hateful person, and I was put on a hate watch list simply because I put a flag up that encouraged, one of the founding flags of this nation, to encourage our country to pray for our leaders. And then those leaders are put on a hate list, and it's published. So my name's on a list along with 10 others, courtesy of some hate watch group. I don't know, Dr. King, if we're on the same list, but I'm honored to be on a list with you any time of the day, any week, any month that we're in a fight together for this country. So I encourage you to tell your people to keep on praying, and we'll keep flying our flag. How about that? So question, Mr. Fair. Southern Poverty Law Center, as we know, is headquartered in Montgomery, Alabama. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
I don't know if your mic's on.
Yes, it is.
Are you here today as the interim president and CEO of Southern Poverty Law Center?
Yes, I am.
Took over when?
I'm sorry?
When did you take that job?
In July.
Any idea why?
Because I've supported the SPLC and its mission for my entire life.
You don't think it had anything to do with the investigation that's going on?
I'm sorry?
You think maybe because of the investigation you were moved as interim CEO, or?
That I was removed?
I know you were actually installed.
No. I joined as interim CEO because there was a vacancy, and the board asked if I would be willing to step in.
Fair
and
enough.
I said yes.
Okay, so you received actually a subpoena from the Attorney General, Steve Marshall. You're aware of that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have you provided the documents that the Attorney General has requested?
SPLC's counsel will reply to the subpoena.
So you haven't as of yet?
I have not. SPLC's counsel will reply to that subpoena.
What do you think the SPLC is withholding from the Attorney General? It seems like they're slow walking the information. At least that's what I've been told.
SPLC's counsel will reply to the subpoena. Congressman Moore.
Should we make this a drinking game that every time he says that their counsel's going to respond, we should take a drink? I do have some tequila upstairs. Maybe we should do this, guys. It's Saturday night. If you're at home, because I won't be able to continue walking after 2 shots. I won't be able to walk anymore. I'm a lightweight. But if you're at home and you want to play this game, every time Mr. Fair decides he's not going to actually answer a question and he defers to counsel, take a drink. Just like at the stream a couple days ago, every time that the CEO of Act Blue pled the fifth, we took a drink. So next time Mr. Fair says that his counsel's going to answer, take a drink.
Did the SPLC tell Alabama donors that donated funds could be used to pay informants tied to groups like the Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nations, or the National Socialist Movement?
Congressman Moore, all the allegations in the indictment will be addressed in the Middle District of Alabama in the criminal case pending against the SPLC.
Shot number 1.
Okay, did the SPLC donation page tell Alabama donors that their money could be paid directly or indirectly to sources inside extremist groups? Did y'all notify your donors of that?
Same response, Congressman Moore.
Did the SPLC's fundraiser
counts as
emails to
drink
Alabama
chili.
donors use the word informant?
Congressman Moore, as I said, counsel will address all the allegations.
3 drinks. We're at
We
3
believe our
drinks. We're
donors
only a
support
couple
all
minutes
of our
into
programs
this
and all the
tonight.
work that we do.
In closing, SPLC has spent years accusing other Americans of hate. Accountability has come home to Montgomery. The issue is transparency. The issue is donor honesty. The issue is whether an Alabama-based organization can raise money off accusations of hate while refusing to answer basic questions about where that money went. Southern Poverty Law Center does not get to use Alabama as its headquarters, as a brand. We deserve better. The civil rights movement is not a fundraising costume, and Alabama donors are not an ATM. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Illinois. Gentleman from Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's astonishing to see Republicans choose to humiliate themselves for a third time with this hearing, which is more of an indictment of them than anyone else. Everyone knows that the SPLC indictment is a joke, a bad one at that. Everyone knows that the legal arguments are nonsense, and everyone knows that Todd.
Remember what I've been saying. Everything that the left accuses the right of doing is what they're actually doing. So when this guy is shaming the right and saying that, you know, they're weaponizing the justice system, they're basically just recapping what they did for 4 years when Biden was in office. So they let you in on what they're doing by accusing the right of it.
Blanche's corrupt henchman ordered the U.S. attorney to do this pathetic hack job, even though it'll never hold up in court. So why are Republicans putting us through this absurd gaslighting Olympics for a third time? Because their assault on the SPLC is a crucial part of the assault on democracy itself. The Republican Party used to be the party of Lincoln from Illinois. That's where I'm from. Today, it's nothing more than a debt cult and a political front for the white supremacist movement, tragically. That's as old as our country itself. As my Democratic colleagues have pointed out, there's a reason why Republicans are targeting the SPLC. No organization has been more effective in dismantling the Klan and other white nationalist groups, including through the use of informants. This is a nonprofit organization. It has a board of directors.
Riddle me this. What nonprofit organization needs to have $800 million in offshore accounts? And what nonprofit organization has to create all these shell companies to pay informants? Maybe I'm just not well versed in how it works in the nonprofit space, but I just didn't think that that was like above board. But we can do some more research on it.
They govern organizations in place you don't know. So the Republican Party protects these groups because they have the same goals: erase Reconstruction, erase the civil rights movement, destroy multiracial democracy, and restore Jim Crow in America. That's what this is all about. And it's right in front of us. They tried to violently overthrow an election, then got pardons from their ringleader, President Trump. They tried to embezzle billions of tax dollars to create a white nationalist slush fund at DOJ. But it ran into problems, didn't it? They divert law enforcement resources from combating white nationalism to low-level immigration enforcement. They accuse the SPLC of being anti-Christian for opposing anti-abortion, anti-LGBT bigotry, even though Christian leaders, as we saw in the prior video.
I don't know about you guys, but I did not get like good vibes from that video that they just showed. Like, I do not think that is legit. I don't know who those people are, but it just looked like, you know, actors that they pulled off central casting. So like, this is such a joke that they're bringing this stuff in as evidence. But I just hope that everybody watching is kind of seeing through this. For me, it angers me. I don't like to be lied to. And as I've said the last couple of nights, like on the congressional House floor, this is our house. We, the American people, we elect Congress. We pay their salaries. This is our house. They're in our house, lying, gaslighting. It makes me angry. I don't know about you, but let's continue.
Nationwide support the SPLC overwhelmingly. Their morality bankrupt, they're morally bankrupt co-conspirators on the Supreme Court and in state legislatures are dismantling Reconstruction amendments and rigging elections to strip black and brown people of political representation. Let's be clear. The president and his enablers are carrying out the vision of the Klan, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, and every other hate group because they exist and they act. They are courageous patriots and they have fought for decades. It's the same old playbook on DEI, on mass incarceration, on the Voting Rights Act, on immigration enforcement, the racial profiling, the mass detentions, the stripping of due process, the undermining of birthright citizenship, everything that's happening in communities like mine, it's all the same playbook. And it's rooted in the same conspiracy theory, the Great Replacement Theory. Mr. Fair, thank you for being here today and for all that SPLC does. Would you agree that this administration's anti-immigrant agenda is part of the broader support of white nationalist movement? And how does the Great Replacement Theory underpin that movement?
Yes, Congressman Garcia. The Great Replacement Theory suggests that whites in this country are being replaced by immigrants. And many of the groups that we identify as hate groups target immigrants, label them as criminals, as rapists, in the words of this administration and otherwise. There are any number of groups that express white supremacist views that this country should be a majority white nation. Those views are antithetical to the views of the SPLC.
Thank you for sharing that. I yield back, Mr.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman for California is recognized for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I forgot I have some UCs.
Okay, gentleman or gentlelady can proceed.
I just want to address this Great Replacement Theory because they've brought it up a couple times. And to be honest, I've heard of it like years ago, but I really don't have a lot of information. And this is not something that I ever hear anybody on the right ever talk about. And full disclosure, sometimes I listen to Nick Fuentes. It's my guilty pleasure. I'm sorry. Dave's probably going to kill me that I admitted that on screen, but he's kind of funny sometimes. But anyways, I haven't even heard him talk about this. Maybe he does, but I've never heard him. But what this is, what they're talking about, the Great Replacement Theory, is a conspiracy theory that claims that native-born populations, usually white Europeans or white Americans, are being deliberately replaced through immigration, demographic change, and lower birth rates among the existing population. And people that believe in this theory think that it's coordinated, it's an intentional effort by the elites, government, or other groups to replace the native population. There's so many issues with this theory, this conspiracy theory. First of all, I hate when they say conspiracy theory now because what we've seen over the last decade is that all the things that were labeled conspiracy theories just turned out to be true. And maybe this is true. Maybe this is not actually a conspiracy. Maybe this is the initiative. But from my perspective, I just don't see that whatsoever. I see America as this melting pot. That's how I was taught. That's what they taught me in school. Yeah, I graduated high school in 2000. And I was always taught that America is this melting pot. I'm just a third-generation American. My grandfather was actually the first person in his family to be born in America. He had brothers that were older than him, and they came over from Russia and Poland. So I'm just a third-generation American. And I see America as this place where people from all over the world can come together and make a great lives for themselves. We have freedom of speech, which is extremely important, and we have the freedom to come here, start a business, be entrepreneurial, and everybody says there's no better place in the world to make money than America. So I see America as wanting to bring in all of these immigrants. And I have a lot of friends that are immigrants as well, or their parents were immigrants, but the difference is, I'm talking about people that came here legally. And even people that are immigrants that have come here legally do not like illegal immigration. Illegal immigration is terrible for everybody involved. And we've had a very big problem with illegal immigration when Biden was in office. And I actually don't even think that Trump has been doing a great job fixing that. I'm glad that the borders are, more controlled than they were. But I actually wish that he had done a better job and deported more people than he has. But that's another story. But anyways, what the left has done is they're fixated on this immigration piece. And they're mixing up legal and illegal immigration and making the right out to be, this terrible group that just wants white European people living in America. And like I said, I've never heard that theory before, and I've never talked to anybody that wants that. People on the right, we have no problem with people immigrating here. We just want them to immigrate here legally. I think immigration is a beautiful thing, and I actually wish that our immigration process was a little bit easier. I think it's really difficult for people that want to immigrate here legally, and it shouldn't be. But what the left has done is now they're demonizing, really, I would say like 80% of our country for just wanting people to come here safely and legally. And I just think it's very wrong how they present these things. And I wish that they wouldn't come into our house and lie and gaslight and manipulate the truth.
San Diego mosque shooters left document revealing racist neo-Nazi beliefs.
Objection.
Vance praises YouTuber Nick Shirley reporting on Minnesota fraud.
Without objection.
Undocumented immigrant offending rate lower than U.S.-born citizen rate.
Without objection.
Yeah, okay. Anti-Muslim bigotry surges ahead of International Day
Without
to combat Islamophobia. The annual report 2025, the Council on, American Islamic Relations 2025 annual report.
Without objection.
Anti-Islamic rhetoric from GOP politicians sparks concern over religious hatred.
Without objection.
The SPLC's Year in Hate and Extremism 2024.
Without objection.
And once again, the SPLC's hate map to establish clearly for the record who is and who is not on it.
Without objection. I want to thank you all for your patience. We have about a half an hour based on the number of members yet to testify, so we'll move to that as quick as we can. And the gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized.
Thank you. For any business to remain profitable, there must be both supply and demand. As for the Southern Poverty Law Center's business model, it needs to convince people that there exist certain types of discrimination and hatred in the United States, and that it alone has the expertise to identify, target, and eradicate it. A lack of such discrimination and hatred would render the SPLC's existence obsolete. And that is largely what has happened in America. So what is a business to do when its very existence is threatened by a dramatic decrease in the scourge that it exists to combat? What happens when racism, for example, is largely a thing of the past? The Brain Trust at SPLC came up with their own unique solution to this conundrum. They decided to fund the very hatred that they claim to be fighting against. And like magic, the money has continued to roll in. In fact, advancing hatred has become quite profitable for the SPLC, as in 2024, the organization had over $829 million in assets, an endowment of approximately $738 million, and $129 million in revenue. The bulk of this money comes from the contributions of the SPLC's donors, contributions that the donors thought were made to, quote, confront hate, stand up to injustice, and defend our civil and human rights, end quote. But that isn't the case at all. Instead of confronting hate, standing up for justice, or defending civil and human rights, the SPLC has been funding the exact opposite, with the added bonus of then using their donations to target right-leaning organizations such as the Family Research Council and Turning Point USA, simply because they believe in traditional marriage and the sanctity of the family unit while also opposing abortion. Stated another way, SPLC has been using its funds to attack those very organizations that actually do confront hate, stand for justice, and defend civil and human rights. And the SPLC funded actual Nazis and white supremacists in order to do so. In order to get away with this scam, the SPLC knew that it had to hide what it was doing. I mean, who was going to donate to an organization that has actual Nazis on the payroll to organize AstroTurf rallies to try to smear conservatives? The DOJ's superseding indictment filed on June 2nd approximates that between 2010 and 2023, the SPLC funded $4.1 million in tax-exempt donor funds to various violent extremist organizations, including the Aryan Nations, the National Socialist Movement, and the KKK, via a series of fictitious accounts, and then committed.
First of all, I love Harriet, but how many times have we heard the left accuse the right of donating and being on the side of the KKK? I mean, freaking poor Elon Musk was at the inauguration and, you know, said I gave the I love you sign, and people all over the news and all over the internet was saying, you know, he was doing a Hail Hitler sign, okay? So this is what these people like put us through. All along, while they're doing it, they are literally writing a check to the KKK, writing a check to the Aryan Nations, okay? They're taking their donors' money, their donors that think that they're donating to the SPLC to fight anti-Semitism, fight hate, fight racism, and they're using that donation money to write a check to the KKK. And then they have the nerve to turn around and tell us that Donald Trump is a Nazi and Elon Musk is a Nazi and they're doing all these Nazi things on stage. It's so ridiculous. But like I've been saying, they tell you what they're doing. They tell you what they're doing by accusing the right of doing that, what they're actually doing.
Bank fraud to cover it all up. The indictment goes on to say that these donor funds were ultimately used for the growth and recruitment of these organizations, the purchase of materials for cross burnings. That's despicable. And group attire and the production of racist paraphernalia sold at rallies. That's really despicable. That's gross. Mr. Fair, does the SPLC have any written policies to ensure that the payments you made to these organizations were not used to incite violence or engage in other activities that contradicts SPLC's public representations?
Congresswoman Hageman, as I said earlier, all of the allegations that you've
You have
just
written policies to make sure that you're not funding the KKK.
We don't fund the KKK.
Well, you do. Actually, that's what's in the
That's an
indictment.
allegation,
Sure.
Congresswoman.
Have you produced
and
any of these
we will
materials
discuss all
to
of those
us?
allegations.
Have you produced those materials to this committee?
What materials?
Any materials, any written materials, so that you are not, to show that you have a policy in place to not fund hate groups such as the KKK?
SPLC's counsel is working with this committee's counsel to respond to your
Did anyone at the
That's drink number
SPLC ever
5,
raise any
guys.
concerns
Take a
about your
shot.
practice of funding hate groups?
We don't fund hate groups.
Why wasn't the SPLC, now, you're under oath, remember that. You are under oath here today.
I said we don't fund hate groups.
Okay, except the $4.1 million that you gave to the KKK, the National Socialist Movement, and the Aryan Nations.
Congresswoman Hageman, those are allegations
Okay.
that will be
You're under
addressed.
oath.
That will be addressed
All right.
in the criminal
Number
case
6.
pending against the
The
SPLC.
Number 6,
SPLC
guys.
also played a part in funding the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, and you paid an organizer who drafted racist posts under the SPLC's supervision. You fomented the hate, and then you made bank off of it, about $80 million in the following months after that rally. But you didn't just make a ton of money that day. 3 people actually died, 2 police officers and a woman named Heather Danielle Heyer. So from the standpoint of your business model, making money off of hatred, you must say that that was actually a very successful day for the SPLC. Would you agree with that?
SPLC doesn't foment hate.
Well, that day you did. I guess that I'm out of time. With that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.
So maybe I'm a little bit slow here, guys. But the left has brought up that Charlottesville rally. The right has brought up that Charlottesville rally. So I'm just putting the pieces together. And again, this may have been an aha moment years ago for somebody else watching this, but I'm just putting the puzzle pieces together. So we had that riot in Charlottesville where there were these Nazis or neo-Nazis that, you know, had signs and were making a ruckus. And Donald Trump addressed that in one of his speeches, and his speech got completely butchered by the media. And they said that he said that, you know, there were fine people at that rally. But what he actually said was there were fine people at that rally, except for, you know, the neo-Nazis and the people that were, you know, doing these anti-Semitic things. Like, he specifically said that he does not condone that behavior. But the media completely cut that portion out. And for years now, we've been hearing back this rhetoric that Donald Trump said that, you know, Nazis are very fine people. And even in the hearing earlier, somebody brought that up, even though this has been debunked so many times. Anyways, from what I'm gathering from this hearing is that the SPLC paid these Nazi groups to be at that rally where 3 people died, and that they've used that clip that they edited to say that Donald Trump, you know, supports white nationalists and Nazis. So the SPLC paid somebody to be at that rally to cause this ruckus, and now they're using this clip over and over and over to prove that Donald Trump supports white nationalism. So I had no idea that that happened, that the SPLC was behind this. And this is like a really big thing. Like, this clip has been used so many times. It's like a little triggering for me to hear it because it has been debunked. He never said that. But this is what the left does. They cause the problems and then they try to sell you a solution. But in this situation, they're not even selling you a solution. They want the problem to continue on and on and on. And, you know, Harriet Hagman's amazing, and she just tells it like it is. And she just told us, they don't want there to be peace. They want more hate. They want more hate crimes. They want more people yelling from the rooftops about anti-Semitic things and whatnot, because the more people that act that way, that scares the population, the more money they get. So peace is not profitable. Chaos is. And it looks like the SPLC really, really is trying hard to keep this narrative that we have so much hate and anti-Semitism in America. And it's probably just not really true. And, well, let's continue.
Gentlelady from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to each of our witnesses. I have read all of your testimonies, and most Americans now believe that political violence will increase in the next few years. With the attempted kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer, the anti-Semitic firebombing of Josh Shapiro's home, and the recent attempted assassination of Donald Trump, there's no doubt that extremism is on the rise. Just a simple answer. Does everyone agree that this is a serious concern for our democracy? Ms. McCord?
Yes.
Mr. Bangert?
Yes, political violence is always a serious concern.
Dr. King? Yes or no? Just yes or no?
All political violence is of great concern.
Mr. Fair?
Yes, Congresswoman McBath.
Thank you. Last year, someone tried to firebomb a Republican Party headquarters in Arizona, and someone else fired gunshots at a Democratic Party office building in New Mexico. There have been politically and racially motivated mass shootings in Charleston, El Paso, and beyond. Yes or no for each of you, do you think it should be a priority of the Department of Justice and the FBI to combat extremism and political violence?
Yes, regardless of ideology.
Thank you.
Yes, Congressman, I believe the department should be pursuing criminal acts of political violence.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Congresswoman.
Thank you. Our priority should be eliminating and deterring violence, a view that is not shared by the Trump administration. Last March, the Department of Homeland Security defunded the database at the University of Maryland that tracked domestic terrorism, hate crimes, and targeted violence, the only publicly available database of its kind in this country. Shut down at the...
But here's the problem. Their definition of hate crime and domestic terrorism is not the true definition. And if you haven't looked on SPLC's website, they have this map of hate. And you can click on your state and you can see all the hate groups according to the SPLC. When you look at the groups that they are considering anti-government or a hate group, it wouldn't be my definition of a hate group. And I talked about this the other day. One of the groups in my area that's on their list is an organization called Moms for Liberty. And I personally know people that are part of Moms for Liberty. Moms for Liberty is basically a group of conservative mothers that just want to make sure that their kids are learning appropriate things in school. And they're a very peaceful organization, in my opinion. They're really just a group that cares about their children's education. But according to the SPLC, because they have more conservative values and they don't want to have like sexual topics taught in school, that they are anti-government and they are a terrorist hate group. So this is their definition of a hate group. But at the same time, they were asked on this hearing, why isn't Antifa on your list of hate groups? Antifa is that organization that's all over the country that bombs places, lights things on fire, really commits a lot of violent, dangerous crimes around America. And the CEO of SPLC said, oh, well, Antifa isn't a group. Antifa is an ideology. So they're not on our list because they're not a group, they're an ideology. So that's their definition. Their definition of a hate group is mothers getting together because they don't want like their second graders learning about transgender sexual behavior. But Antifa, an organization that goes around kidnapping and bombing and lighting things on fire all over the country and causing chaos, the SPLC doesn't consider them a hate group. They're not on the list. So this is what you're dealing with. So just keep that into perspective because they're trying to villainize Trump and the right but the reality is that list that they created is just trying to silence people that are trying to actually stand up for freedom and democracy and protect our children.
Very moment that its data showed a 25% increase in terrorism and targeted violence over the prior year. By summer 2025, the administration went on to dismantle DHS's Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships, the primary federal unit for proactively stopping extremist violence, credited with disrupting over 1,000 violent plots. Last fall, The Justice Department quietly removed from its website a study showing far-right extremists were responsible for the bulk of ideologically motivated deaths, a fact that has been shown numerous times in multiple studies. Professor McCord, why is the Trump administration shutting down these tools and burying studies on violence at a moment when extremism is on the rise?
Well, I can't get into the heads of every person in this administration, but it is certainly consistent with their mass deportation plans and the vilifying of people of color and immigrants into the United States.
Thank you. Americans expect their government to keep them safe. Yet the administration seems determined to do so only when it fits their ideological narrative. There's no better example than the reckless pardon.
I don't feel safe when illegal immigrants are roaming my streets, raping women, raping children. That doesn't make me feel safe. I don't know what this lady is talking about. Like, it's upside down. This narrative is so upside down, and it's really angering for anybody that has any sort of intelligence whatsoever, any common sense, to listen to this. And it's also kind of scary to me that these people can just be on the congressional floor just lying completely. Like, do they believe their lies? That's what I want to know. Like, do they believe what they're saying is true? Are they just totally living in a different reality? Or is this done purposefully because they just don't really care about people? It's all about the money. It's all about greed. And they're just going to do everything possible to make you believe them because the money is so good. I don't know. I don't have the answer. Let me know in the chat.
Of the January 6th rioters, nearly 100 of whom have reoffended since the attack. One was arrested after threatening a person with a gun in a church parking lot. Another plotted to assassinate FBI agents, and yet another one in a plot to assassinate an elected official. Dr. King, in a letter from a Birmingham jail, your uncle writes to fellow clergymen about the dangers of turning a blind eye to those who do wrong to your neighbors. How do you reconcile that with the presidential pardons of 1,200 violent extremists?
May I answer in this manner? Manufactured hate, socially engineered racism, because we are one blood and we are one human race. All of this is generating unwarranted fear and chaos. George Wallace, who was mentioned earlier, was one of the most racist people on the planet, and he repented, he admitted that he had been racist, he regretted it, and much healing came forth.
And I understand
Planned
that, Dr.
Parenthood
King,
admitted
but I'm
that it
asking
is
you a
racist
question
as
is
well.
how do you reconcile with
It is time for
1,200 pardons that have
SPLC
been made
to
by the
admit.
president?
Time belongs, Dr. King,
To
time belongs to the lady.
admit, I'm answering you. And so in a letter from the Birmingham jail, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Okay, thank
Everything
you
you
for
just
that.
mentioned was terrible. But
Thank
what
you
about
for
the
that.
guard that was shot
I'm moving on.
right out at
Professor McCord.
Family Research Council? I'm
Thank you
trying to
very much.
answer.
Dr.
Thank you.
King.
Thank
You
you.
know, injustice, violence is
reclaiming my
wrong.
Time
I
belongs to
reclaim
the-
my time. I'm reclaiming my time.
Time belongs to the general.
Violence, all violence is wrong.
Professor
Mr. Chairman, could you
McCord.
restore her time just 25 seconds?
We've been very generous with the time. We'll give her a few seconds more.
Okay. Professor McCord, does issuing blanket pardons to violent extremists who assaulted police officers help address this problem of rising extremism in America?
No, it condones extremism by one side of the ideological spectrum.
Okay, thank you. We still need organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center.
I gotta say this, and I haven't talked about this much over the last few years, but what happened on January 6th and what happened to the people that were a part of January 6th really makes me sick. I personally know some of the people that were there, and the left wants to try to portray what happened on January 6th like this concerted effort where these violent criminals stormed the Capitol. But that's really, I really don't think that that's what happened. From my perspective, the people that went to the Capitol on January 6th were protesting the results of the election. And this is a whole other issue in itself, but I think a lot of people do not believe that the election results in 2020 were real. And again, we can talk about that. That's a whole other topic. But the people that went to DC January 6th, they thought that they were going to just stand up for their rights. They wanted Congress to relook at the results, and they were standing up for free and fair elections because they did not think that the 2020 election process was free or fair. So I truly believe that the people that went up there, their intention was purely to do good, to stand up for themselves and stand up for the American election system. And I don't know exactly what happened that day. I've heard different things. I don't know what's been proven to be true or not. I've heard things like, there were FBI plants there that were egging people on. It looked like maybe the Capitol was just opened by enforcement. They didn't really storm it, that it was unlocked and opened for them. I don't know what happened. I really don't know. I'm not 100% sure. There have been lots of things that have come out. But what I do know is a lot of the people that were there and that entered the Capitol didn't participate in any violence whatsoever, walked around, and you can see videos, walked around, laughed, made videos, and it wasn't aggressive, it wasn't violent, but their lives were completely ruined just for being there. And they were treated so horribly, like so unconstitutionally horrible, the way that some of these people were treated. And then Trump pardoned them, which I agree with completely. But still, their lives were turned upside down, never to be the same again. And he's trying to make things right, but they have such a problem with it because it just hurts their narrative. But again, that's another story, and we can talk about the election of 2020 for hours, but let's continue.
Ask the committees in San Diego, Buffalo, and Jacksonville. You can ask me, a mother who lost her son to gun violence because a man made assumptions about him based on the color of his skin. Hate-driven violence and policy still exists, and we should dare to be bold, as Dr. King was, to fight against it. And I yield.
I'm the gentlelady's.
Mr. Chairman, could I do a UC?
We'll go to Ms. Hageman, then I'll come to you.
I have a UC request. An article from LiveSet, the both sides political violence narrative completely debunked. They cooked the books as typical. Another one, a letter from Andrew Clovet to Chairman Jordan and the committee about SPLC putting the Turning Point USA on its fraudulent hate map in the spring of 2025, and a September 1, 2020 letter from the Coalition for Jewish Values related to the SPLC hate map and what it does to the Jewish community and the risk that it places the Jewish community
Without objection.
in.
Gentleman from Maryland.
Yes, just two, Mr. Chairman. The 2017 Trump administration FBI document listing the SPLC as its partner in fighting hate.
Objection.
And then this is from National Public Radio. Author details the spy network that took on America's post-World War II Nazi groups, the Anti-Defamation League and the American Jewish Committee went undercover.
Objection. Gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. King, Mr. Fair is saying that SPLC does not fund hate groups. Is the KKK a hate group?
The KKK is a hate group, and what I'm very concerned about is that whether it's for informants or whatever, manufacturing all this fear and hate is not effective. And I do know, somebody said that the SPLC donors don't have any problems. Well, some of the donors have said, I didn't know that's what they were spending the money for. I didn't know what they're doing. So it's not effective. To pay the KKK or an informant to pretend they're KKK or whatever, and then they do KKK stuff and people get hurt.
So what we've also been hearing from the other side here is that you must be a white nationalist if you oppose SPLC. Are you, Dr. King, a white nationalist?
I'm not a white nationalist, and I am on the SPLC watch list. I have been and I am. I may have called it the wrong thing, but they have been watching.
Let's
Yes,
call
they
it whatever
have.
it is, watch
Yeah.
list, map, whatever.
Yeah.
Mr. Fair, there's a group, Moms for Liberty, that was added to the hate map. Why was it important for your organization to put the Moms for Liberty on hate map or whatever designation that you did?
Moms for Liberty, Congressman Tiffany, is an organization that advocates against school curricular inclusion. It mentions, it opposes LGBTQ rights. It
Is inclusion,
expresses,
when you use the term inclusion, does that include gender mutilation? Because that's part of what they oppose, is when you have minors
they seek,
as young as kindergarten, and I'll let you answer, as young as kindergarten, where they're teaching them that gender mutilation is okay. Is that inclusion in your book?
they oppose the teaching about race, about sexual identity. They seek to ban books. They have been critical.
So if that book included gender mutilation is a good thing, that we should allow minors to be able to do that, you're saying that that's a bad thing?
I'm saying that Moms for Liberty is listed on our hate map because it demeans and vilifies people based on their immutable characteristics. It engages in various kinds of conspiracy theories. It seeks to whitewash our history, to exclude certain subjects from our public schools.
Are family values and parental rights, are those conspiracy theories?
Congressman Tiffany, Moms for Liberty says that it's for parental rights, but then it interferes with parental rights. It interferes with parental rights. I'm a parent too, and I want my children to learn about the history of this country. I want them to learn about racism. I want them to learn about hate and the expression of.
So why can't he teach them? If you want your kid to learn so much about transgender and genital mutilation and everybody's sexuality at age 5, just go home and teach them. Why does it have to be in the school curriculum? I just don't understand that. I really don't.
Hate in this country. So as a parent, Moms for Liberty says it gets to decide for me and for millions of other parents in this country. That's not liberty.
I can assure you, Mr. Fair, that Moms for Liberty is not a racist organization. They may differ with you in regards to gender mutilation for children 8, 10 years old or whatever, but I think that's a fair debate to be having. But to say that they're a racist...
What I said is that
I'm going to make the statement here. To say that they are a racist organization,
they seek to exclude teaching about race in this country, is what I said.
They are not a racist organization, because I have been around them. To teach family values and parental rights, I think, is a good thing here in America. There are a couple organizations in Wisconsin, the Public Library System and the Department of Public Instruction, that house SPLC documents. Will you go back to them and tell them, after the trial is done and all of this has been exposed of what SPLC did, are you going to go back and tell them, we are sorry that we misled the good people of the state of Wisconsin?
All of the allegations in the indictment will be addressed in the Middle District of Alabama.
That's your 6th shot, guys.
And when it is deemed that you did fund these hateful organizations like the KKK, will you come back and apologize to those organizations like the Public Library System and the Department of Public Instruction in Wisconsin that you did the wrong thing?
We've already asserted in our filings that we did not lie to our donors, that we did not fund any hate groups. The Department of Justice knew that we were working with them, that we shared information.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
Mr. Chairman, It's unanimous consent request. It's just an article with respect to Moms for Liberty and focusing specifically on critical race theory and DEI, not specifically talking about or teaching race and their positions on that. I'd like to insert that in the record.
Without objection. The gentlelady from Texas recognized.
You know what? I hate that we have spent this much time, on SPLC and we've not addressed the elephant in the room, the literal elephant in the room. The vast majority of the people on that side of the aisle, and for those of you that are at home, let me tell you, when I say that side of the aisle, I'm talking about the Republicans, the ones that brought this hearing. And again, you've heard that this is not the first hearing, but the vast majority of them are white men. White men are lecturing people of color because the vast majority, actually, any semblance of diversity comes from this side of the aisle. You want to tell people of color who is fighting for who? People of color.
That's such BS. That's such BS. Let her continue. This is a joke. The Republicans are just as diverse as the Democrats. We have very prominent black senators and black congressmen and Asian and Hispanic and lots of female members in Congress and Senate. So this is comical. Comical.
Do not feel comfortable or welcomed within your party. That's why you have to parade someone who has the name Dr. King attached to them so that people can be confused, because I have been reading the comments online and people are like, who is this Dr. King? Because you want them to believe that somehow she espouses who Dr. King was, yet you've yet to have MLK.
She literally is his niece. This is so offensive. Oh my God, if I was Dr. King sitting there, I'd be so offended by Crockett, Ratchet, whatever you want to call her. They're so offensive. They're so egregiously offensive. I can't even believe what I'm watching right now.
Third come in here, you've yet to have Dr. Bernice King, the ones that were actually raised by Dr. King, the ones that actually probably understand the teachings of Dr. King. And I just want to be clear, because I want to talk to y'all about what the Dr. King had to say about racism, so that y'all don't get it twisted and don't get it confused just because you see the name sitting in this room. Our nation was born in genocide when it embraced the doctrine that the original American, the Indian, was an inferior race. That was from his 1963 book, Why We Can't Wait. He also said, in the final analysis, racism is evil because its ultimate logic is genocide. If one says that I am not good enough to live next door to him, or to have a good, decent job, or to go to school with him merely because of my race, he is saying consciously or unconsciously that I do not deserve to exist. This was from his 1967 speech, The Other America. So just to be clear, y'all don't seem like y'all even understand what a hate organization is. So I went to Google to help you out. A hate group is an organized group whose beliefs, practices, and primary purpose are centered on advocating malice, hostility, or violence towards people based on their immutable race, religion, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or disability. So I know some of y'all are, caping for Charlie Kirk, because I done heard y'all talk about his organization over and over and over. So I'm not finna play with anybody who's gonna play with my time, so I'm going directly to Ms. McCord. Professor, let me put some respect on your name. All right, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Does that sound like a hater or not?
That sounds like a racial stereotype.
Okay, sounds good to me. We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act in the mid-1960s.
That sounds like someone who still adheres to racist views.
Okay. America has freedom of religion, of course, but we should be frank. Large, dedicated Islamic areas are a threat to America.
That is someone who can't accept that America is a multiracial, multi-religious place.
Okay, these all just happen to be comments from the fearless leader of Turning Point USA, so I could see where SPLC was going. I also think that it's so interesting that right now, just for those sitting at home, you may not know that oversight is not having any hearings right now because the Republicans don't want to deal with the Epstein file. So they have shut down all of oversight committee hearings, right? So we've got an indictment for SPLC. I have still yet to see an indictment on any Epstein defendant. Not a one, but okay. And we want to talk about what happened in Charlottesville, and we are so upset about Charlottesville. All of a sudden, I would be interested to know which one of you had something to say about Charlottesville when it happened, because I don't think that y'all were saying those same things. In fact, our fearless leader at the time said that there were pretty fine people on both sides. You were okay with the tiki torches. You were okay with it. But I digress. I'm going to move on to Texas in my last 24 seconds. In your testimony before the Texas House of Representatives, you read aloud a series of messages between you and other whistleblowers, basically explaining the corruption happening directed by Attorney General Ken Paxton. On page 82, lines 5 through 11, you list all the corruption that Ken Paxton directed you and others to carry out, to quote, demanding that we investigate facially bogus charges, refusing to take our advice that there is no prosecutable offense, demanding that we hire outside counsel, and authorizing an improper fishing expedition. Is that correct?
The time the gentlelady has expired. The gentleman can respond if you want.
My testimony from that proceeding stands for itself.
Yeah.
So
You're now
just
recognized.
to clarify,
The gentlelady's time has expired.
I understand.
Our next person is going to give you time, Dr. King, to respond. So we will now recognize the gentleman from South Carolina.
I'm going to be gone.
Dr. King, thank you for being here. I know that there was a monologue earlier in which you wanted to respond. I think you were kind of ready to do that, but we're not given that opportunity. Would you like to briefly respond to that?
Very briefly, Congresswoman, I am a bit emotional. I'm going to watch what I say. But it seems as though you have suggested that I am a bastard to the King family legacy. I am legitimately the daughter of Reverend Alfred Daniel Williams King and Dr. Naomi Ruth Barber King. We are a family who loves God, and I love you. God bless you.
Ms. King, let the record reflect that the gentlelady from Texas left the room. Thank you for responding to that.
Wow.
Mr. Fair, the SPLC website, you have a section called the Extremist Files with profiles of groups and individuals that, according to your frequently asked questions, are key figures on the hard right. How do you, you don't have any criteria listed, but just for education purposes, how does somebody become part of the extremist files?
Thank you, Congressman Fry. Our team in the Intelligence Project uses various criteria to identify folks on extremist files because
Like what is the criteria?
their statements and their activities are the criteria.
All right, so I'm gonna get so for example, if an individual is the leader of a KKK chapter, that person is overtly out in the public as the leader of a KKK chapter, they're probably apt to be on the extremist files based on their position, their statement, their association with the KKK. Is that fair to say?
That determination, Congressman Fry, would be made by the experts at the SPLC.
Right, but I mean, that would be an overt person, somebody that's out in front of this. They would be more likely than not to be included on that file. Is that correct?
Could be on the hate map, could be on the hate list.
Is it truly objective or is it very subjective? I mean, it sounds like it's like this committee, this mysterious committee decides who's a hater and who's not.
As my testimony shows, we use specific criteria.
But I don't. But your testimony hasn't shown anything. You haven't talked about what that criteria is. So what the heck is the criteria?
Well, earlier, before you were in the room, I believe, Congressman Fry, I said our criteria is we identify people for the hate map, the hate list, I'm sorry, who, through their statements, the statements of their leaders, the principles of the organization.
All right, so let me
demonize and vilify.
So a collective body of evidence, then. How about that? Let's just cut to the chase. So if somebody poses with a Nazi flag or KKK memorabilia, that might be a factor, right, in whether or not they should be on the extremist file. Correct? It could be a factor, not the determining factor, but a factor. Is that fair to say?
It's, again...
Like, the answer is yes, dude. Like, this is not a trap question. I'm giving you, like, softballs.
Well,
if somebody does a Nazi salute in a public forum or in public view, would that be a factor?
It could be.
Could be, okay. What about burning a cross?
It could be a factor depending on the context.
Okay. Have tattoos like Nazi symbols?
We believe that Nazi symbols are symbols of hate, yes.
What about if the individual had knowledge of what the Nazi symbol was when they put the tattoo on their body, or at least learned about it?
I know where they're going with this.
I'm not sure that I'm following your line of questions.
Well, I think it would show intent, right? Like, intent would be that the person knew that the tattoo that they placed on their body was a Nazi tattoo.
I'm not sure I can comment on someone else's
I think your own
intent.
website talks about this, so this is an easy yes. What if this individual referred to their tattoo as a Totenkopf?
I'm not sure I know.
Do you know who I'm describing right now?
No, I don't.
I think you do, actually. That's Graham Plattner from Maine. Like, this is like, he was probably the best thing that y'all had coming, because it actually distracted the media narrative away from the SPLC for like 2 days while they focused on this. But why would a Graham Plattner not be included on your extremist files? If he was a Republican, he probably would be, right?
We don't use political ideology or political party to identify who is on our list.
Well, I think you say you go after the members of the right, but I think as Dr. King was talking about before she stepped out, that this racism knows no ideology or political party. In fact, the Democrat Party has a very long and troubled history since its inception in the 1820s and 30s of supporting slavery, of supporting segregation, of continuing to perpetuate racism in our country. And so the fraud that you have perpetuated on your donors and the American people at the expense of eviscerating hate, you're only targeting one sect of people. It makes absolutely no sense. The organization should be ashamed of itself, and you should be ashamed for being.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this very important hearing today. It's clear that the SPLC has strayed from its original mission and used questionable and, frankly, illegal tactics to drive donations and manufacture political relevance. Mr. Fair, the SPLC labeled Charlie Kirk and his organization dangerous extremists in its Hate Watch newsletter, and Charlie Kirk was assassinated the very next day. Do you regret signing off on that newsletter?
Congressman Odner, what I regret is the political violence in this country on any side of the aisle.
Do you regret?
But this is like a real issue, and it needs to be addressed. These organizations just want money, and they don't care how they get it. They want chaos. They want you to be afraid because that makes them money. And they will target anybody that gets in their way of getting more money. And just like where he's going with this, a day before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the SPLC made disparaging comments about him and TPUSA. And the next freaking day, he was assassinated. And they still will not take TPUSA or Charlie Kirk off their, hate map. These people do these things, and they are inciting violence with the things that they say, and they're pushing it all over the internet, all over TV. And then you have these crazy people that hear this all day long. It's on a loop how racist and anti-Semitic these groups are that aren't whatsoever. But if you hear it over and over and over on the news and on the internet, you start thinking like, oh, maybe they are, maybe they do want to hurt me, and you get afraid, and then you have these lunatics that go and act out on this violence. And it's because of groups like the SPLC right now that we have the political violence. So they're a group that is camouflaging as an organization that wants to fight terrorist activity. They want to fight racism and political violence, but they actually don't. They want more chaos. They want more political violence because that equals more money for them. So they are causing all of these problems And that's just the tip of the iceberg on what this group has done in the last few years.
Naming Turning Point USA a hate group several months earlier.
What I regret, again, is the political violence in this country. And
Are you willing to take any responsibility for the assassination of Charlie Kirk?
Oh,
I'll
they
take that
never
as a no.
would. They
How about
never
the
take responsibility.
designation of the Family Research Council as a hate group? The gunman told the FBI he was inspired by the SPLC's list. Does SPLC accept any responsibility for that violent 2012 attack on the Family Research Council?
Congressman Omner, again, political violence in this country is despicable. We oppose unequivocally all political violence, and we're not responsible.
Has the SPLC ever apologized to Leo Johnson, the building manager, who was
The SPLC
grievously
is not
wounded in the
responsible.
terrorist attack on FRC, the same attack that the gunman said he was inspired by your hate list?
Congressman Omner,
You decry political violence. You incite it, but you decry it.
we don't incite political violence.
Let's move on. Mr.
Yes,
Fair,
they
the
do.
SPLC's
We condemn it always.
latest hate map includes 20 hate and anti-government groups in my home state of Missouri. That list includes Gays Against Groomers. And your website seems to, your main beef with Gays Against Groomers seems to be that they oppose the chemical and surgical mutilation of children. But a few months ago, the American College of Plastic Surgeons updated their guidelines to no longer recommend transgender surgery on minors. Is the American College of Plastic Surgeons also a hate group? They oppose chemically and surgically mutilating minors. Is the American Society of Plastic Surgeons a hate group?
Again,
I know it sounds like an absurd question, but that's how absurd your hate map has gotten.
Our reporting on hate and extremism uses the statements, may I finish? Uses the statements and activities of various groups. And based on those statements, we expose and share with the public what they say.
It seems like one thing that many of the groups that you've labeled hate groups that we've talked about this morning have in common is that they oppose the chemical and surgical mutilation of minor children, as does the United Kingdom, as does Sweden, Finland, Norway, Denmark, and the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Are the 7 groups I just mentioned hate groups, the public health authorities in the UK and Finland and Denmark and so on, are those hate groups?
Congressman, we identify groups.
Okay, how about a group you've identified that just happens to have won 18 cases before the United States Supreme Court and been instrumental in 85 other cases, Alliance Defending Freedom? Are they a hate group? Are you going to double down on that today? ADF is a hate group, yes or no?
May I answer your question?
Yes or no?
ADF is listed because of statements it has made against
Okay, you
persons.
said that about other groups. Okay, you're
Well, you
evading
don't
the
want me to
question
respond, obviously.
because of
but you're
statements
cutting me
they
off.
made according to criteria that you couldn't clearly articulate to Congressman Fry. Okay, I'll ask you, Mr. Bangert. Mr. Bangert, why do you think the Alliance Defending Freedom, a group that's won 18 cases before the United States Supreme Court, is on this defamation machine's hate map?
Well, that's a great question, Congressman. I went and looked at their website this morning, and one of the reasons they give for ADF being listed is because, according to the SPLC, we support the state-sponsored mutilation of adults and children, basically rendering them sterile. The odd thing about that is, in the state of Alabama, we came alongside the Attorney General to defend a statute that would have prohibited medical professionals from performing procedures on children that would have sterilized them. And interestingly, on the other side of the V in that case, one of the law firms was the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Well, there you go. I think that's why you're a hate group. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Texas recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I find truly ironic is that how this is the second hearing in just a few weeks and where we have to confront the hatred festering inside the very organization that claims that it is fighting against, of course, the hatred that being. According to a superseding indictment, the SPLC paid more than $4.1 million to informants tied to extremist groups, including the KKK from 2010 to 2023. In 2 cases, informants who were active members of the local KKK chapter reportedly told the SPLC that they wanted out because they feared for their safety. Instead of supporting their exit, the SPLC employee allegedly encouraged them to remain involved and offered them a monthly salary of $1,200 to do so. As a result, one informant rose into a leadership role within the KKK, recruited other new members, purchased KKK materials, and were even reimbursed for expenses related to cross-burning events. I can't make this up. This is not just ironic, sir. It's quite outrageous. Sir, as you highlighted in your testimony, these organizations have survived for 55 years, taking donations from generous donors. During this time, were these donors ever informed where and whom their money was being passed on to?
Congressman Hunt.
Yes, sir.
All the allegations in the indictment will be addressed in the Middle District of Alabama in the case pending against the...
So you were taking money from people, and were they informed that this was actually funding members of the KKK?
Congressman
Like, so if a donor says, hey, I'm gonna give y'all $1 million, did you then say, well, we're actually gonna have a covert operation that's gonna secretly give money to KKK to fund the organization? And then did the donor then say, well, that sounds like a good idea, please take more of my money? That ever happen?
Congressman Hunt, all of the allegations in the indictment will be addressed in the Middle District of Alabama in the criminal proceedings.
So, you know, here in politics, we take, we take money from donors, and, we have a lot of donor meetings, and the first thing they want to do is they want to understand the platform that they are given to. And my guess is that if you have a donor that's given to your organization, you didn't tell them that they were giving money to KKK. That's fair to say. And if they did know that they were giving money to the KKK, I would call that nefarious intent. We have a bigger problem in this country and with your organization. So I will say this. My Democrat colleagues sit here and they defend your organization, and I will use my time, the rest of my time, to reiterate what I have said many a day sitting in this chair. The Democrat Party has built an entire political machine on grievance. They don't want to solve problems. They want to reopen wounds of the past. They don't offer vision, they offer victimhood. Racism, white supremacy, Jim Crow, democracy is dying. Why? Because fear is the currency of the Democrat Party. Division is their strategy. Outrage is their oxygen. I had a previous colleague that talked about, seeing a black pilot and what that would mean to Charlie Kirk's comments. And it's funny, black pilot here, by the way. I actually went to flight school, West Point graduate, learned how to fly the Apache helicopter, went to flight school in 2005. You see, there was no DEI. We just simply competed with everyone else, and I was selected, fought in combat, went on to fly 55 combat air missions, and nobody gave a damn what I looked like because I got there on merit. What DEI does is it lowers standards based on race and based on gender. Ma'am, you are nodding your head. First of all, thank you for your legacy. Thank you for your family's legacy. What was your uncle's dream, if you don't mind me asking?
Martin Luther King said he had a dream. It was rooted in the American dream, that one day there would be no black power, no white power, only God power and human power. He wanted us to learn to live together as brothers and sisters and not perish as fools. Why would we only get 10% set aside when we are entitled to the same percentage as every American out of the 100%? I'm going to yield back to you because I would talk too long. God bless you, sir.
God bless you, ma'am. And what I understand is that as Democrats would have it, they would think that every single black person should be a Democrat, which would make us the only demographic in the entire world that would think that their entire race should belong to one party. And what your uncle was referring to is this: being judged not by the color of your skin, but by the content of your character, and having representation from all people, from all walks of life, on both sides of the party. And I would argue that we are living your uncle's dream. Are
one
we perfect?
blood,
No, we're
one
not.
race.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm seated before you today as a United States Congressman. My brother, sister, and I all went to West Point. We're all West Point graduates. We all served our country. And I'm here to tell you that I am living that dream every single day. And I am so proud of you and proud of what you stand for, because I know it's not easy. But I'm so glad that people like you are fighting the good fight for the great future of this country, because we are here living Dr. Martin Luther King's dream. It's why I am sitting here today being judged not by the color of my skin, by the content of my character, from a white majority district in Houston, Texas, and I've been black for my entire life. Stop listening to the crap of the left and realize that we are all in one boat rowing in the same direction because of people like you. We must fight against organizations that want to give a dime to organizations like the KKK
Chairman,
for whatever reason. I get back to the remainder of my time.
If
Thank
you're
you.
willing to grant us equal time, I'm fine to let them go as long as they want.
That was good.
My apologies. Thank you, man.
Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and that was tremendously passionate. To my colleague, Mr. Hunt, thank you for your incredible words and admonition to all of us today. Mr. Fair, I want to talk to you for just a moment. It's been referenced several times today about the shooting that took place at Family Research Council's headquarters in 2012. As I've stated before, I actually have worked for and been a part of Family Research Council, and it is frankly a pro-family, pro-life group that promotes the Christian values that are held by many Americans in this country. But when you place groups like FRC on a so-called hate map with groups like we've heard today, KKK and the Aryan Brotherhood, it places a target on the back of those groups and can lead to tragic incidents, such as one August 15th, 2012, when Floyd Lee Corkins II entered FRC's headquarters in Washington, opened fire in an attempt to murder FRC employees. Thankfully, the heroic security guard, Leo Johnson, tackled Corkins to the ground and wrestled the gun out of his hand and got shot in the arm in the process. No one was killed. Corkins was sent to prison, but we all know it could have easily been far, far worse. I just want to bring to your attention real quickly, if I may, what Corkins told police, which I just want you to see a video for a moment if we can, right here this afternoon.
This building, this organization, how did you find it early? Did you look it up online, or how did you know about it?
Southern Poverty Law lists anti-gay groups. I found them online.
Okay.
A little bit of research onto their website and stuff like that.
Okay.
So for those of you who could not hear the video, the convicted shooter explicitly stated the SPLC was his source for finding out about Family Research Council. So Mr. Fair, I just got to ask you, first of all, were you aware that Mr. Corkins had cited SPLC as his source for finding out about FRC?
Congressman Harris, the SPLC condemns all political violence in all circumstances. We are not responsible for Corkins' actions. We never want anyone to use our material to advance political violence.
May I ask you, was this the first time you'd ever seen that video?
Yes.
First time you'd ever seen it. What's your reaction to hearing in that video that the only reason he found out about Family Research Council and decided to go and try to execute employees in that building, what's your reaction to that?
My reaction is that we condemn political violence, that we don't want anyone ever to use our material to advance political violence. We share material and inform the public about what other groups are saying and the activities
yet,
they take.
As of this morning, FRC is still listed on the hate map. Why is it still up there, and do you have any plans to take it down?
FRC continues to be on our hate map because of the expressions it makes, vilifying and demonizing people within the LGBTQ+ community.
Well, I think it's despicable that FRC was placed on the hate list in the first place and that it still remains on that list over 10 years after the attack on those individuals. I also want to bring to the attention quickly someone in this room this morning who has been personally impacted by your so-called hate map. Rosalind Hanson, who serves as the chapter chair of Moms for Liberty, Montgomery County, Maryland chapter, in a 2023 child custody case, going through the difficulty of the challenge of that, her ex-husband specifically cited the SPLC to accuse her of being involved in a hate group. So I just want to see if it's sinking in to anybody here that the SPLC's defamation is causing real-world harm everyday Americans like Ms. Hansen, and it needs to stop. I would also like to enter into the record today from Mrs. Hansen, the letter from Mrs. Hansen to the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division dated May 17, 2026. I'd also like to enter into the record a letter from North Carolina mom, Kim Petit, to the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division dated May 15, 2026.
Without objection. Gentleman yields.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll yield.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
You see, this is from Philadelphia Inquirer. The faith-based leader for Philly's Moms for Liberty chapter is a registered sex offender.
Without objection. We have 10 minutes. We have two more to go. Then the gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for his 5 minutes.
Okay. First of all, maybe not the most recent developments have come out publicly, but for years, due to financial shenanigans, the Southern Poverty Law Center has been, in my mind, totally discredited. But I'm going to ask you a question, Dr. King, and I've talked about this before. One of the things that bothers me is given SPLC's long documented pattern of partisan activity and even more financial misconduct, how do you explain the continued willingness of major press organs to cite SPLC as an authoritative source? Why do we get this again? Things like the Milwaukee Journal, the New York Times. If you were not familiar with the background, you'd think, holy cow, we have an authoritative source here. Why do you think they do this?
Are you directing that?
Yeah, to Dr. King. I'm sorry.
Would you please restate the question?
I'm sorry. SPLC has been exposed for years. There are always new things coming out, but just in general, financial misconduct. Nevertheless, you pick up papers like in my area, the Milwaukee Journal, the New York Times, the Washington Post. You pick up papers and they cite SPLC as this great, wonderful organization. Why do you think, despite the fact that it's been in the public record for, has to be over a dozen years, that this is a sleazy organization, do what used to be mainstream news outlets still cite it?
I believe we are at a monumental time in history. For instance, George Wallace did repent of racism. Planned Parenthood has admitted that they are racist. SPLC right now has a time in history right now to look at the things that it has not gotten right. And we can all benefit from that. There have been decades of this kind of thing. In the 1960s, the informants and all of that were doing their work, ended up hurting rather than helping. When you manufacture hate, when you manufacture and socially engineer racism as if we were separate races and we are only one race, you're going to keep getting unwarranted fear and chaos. Somebody said earlier that there have been decades of these types of practices. These practices have not worked. They are not working. You can't keep paying informers to do stuff and then they end up helping to do terrible stuff, not tell the donors that's what they're paying for. I'm not sure if I actually answered your question correctly, but it is wrong. These practices are not working. We've got to do something that will heal us. We must come together, but some transparency needs to come out of SPLC. They can't act like they're angels and haven't done anything. That's just not right.
Okay. I will point out there's a good book out there, America's Cultural Revolution, which talks about the degree to which a goal of the hard left is to divide America by race. And they obsess about calling people, you know, Hispanic American, North African, Pacific Islander, whatever. I mean, this is not a coincidence. This is an effort to destroy America. Mr. Bangert, do you believe the mainstream press has failed to adequately scrutinize SPLC's influence on public discourse, particularly given the organization's controversial labeling practices and concerns raised by former employees?
Thank you, Congressman. I believe the SPLC has been mostly ignored in terms of the way that it has defrauded the American public. And here's what I mean by that. The SPLC presents itself as a neutral arbiter of what counts as hate. However, the way that it defines hate very frequently excludes from the public discourse their political opponents who disagree with them on matters of freedom of religion. We've already talked extensively today about this question of gender mutilating surgeries. We've also talked, so there's a number of ways in which there has not been even a shred of adequate attention
I'm running out of
paid.
time. I'm going to ask you this. When I read an article on whatever under the sun, they will cite SPLC as the arbiter of whether it is a hate group or not, despite the fact that everybody would say it's not a hate group. Why does the mainstream media, and they have to know better, intentionally keep citing SPLC as some, all-knowing organization? Why would it, if you were the New York Times, you cared at all about your reputation? Why would you continue to cite them?
The mainstream media, Congressman, has a well-known leftward bias. I suspect it's because they agree with the SPLC's political agenda.
Yeah, it's all about politics. The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
I mean, let's just be real, guys. If you're watching this stream right now and you've been following Dave the Lawyer's channel for the last couple of years, that's the mainstream media is the reason that I'm streaming today, because the mainstream media has really lost a lot of its credibility, and all of the news outlets, for the most part, they just parrot back the same propaganda. And people saw firsthand during the pandemic exactly what was going on. And now I think we all kind of get it, that if the media, the mainstream media, tells us something, it's probably not true. They've really lost all credibility. Thank God for, platforms like YouTube, and thank God Elon Musk bought Twitter or X, because it's helped American people and people all over the world communicate with each other and get the truth out. But the days of people just blindly reading the newspaper or listening to CNN or MSNBC or any of those news sources and believing what they're saying is really over with. Nowadays, if somebody cites CNN, you kind of make fun of them. You think that they're an idiot because it's just known that it's propaganda. And in other countries, I had a nanny for my kids that was from another country, and she told me once, oh, everybody in my country knows that the news is just propaganda. We don't listen to the news. It's just government propaganda. And finally, it's taken a while, but finally I feel like Americans get that now, that a lot of it is propaganda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for letting us stay a little late so that I can go here. I appreciate it. And thank you to the witnesses for taking the time, Professor McCord, Mr. Bangert, Dr. King, and Mr. Fair. I really appreciate y'all taking the time to be here. Mr. Fair, do you recognize the tattoo on this man's chest? This is Secretary Hegseth.
No.
It's a tattoo of the Jerusalem cross. Your organization has referred to it as essentially a hate image. Do you agree with that assessment?
I'd have to see the assessment in our material to determine.
Referred to it as a hateful.
I'm not familiar with the symbol.
You're not familiar. Do you have any thoughts on that symbol, on that tattoo?
No, I don't.
No, none at all? You don't have any opinion on it?
No, I don't.
Okay. What about this tattoo? Do you have an opinion on this tattoo?
I'm not an expert on tattoos. No, I don't.
Okay. I can give you a little bit of background. This is a tattoo on Maine Democrat Senate candidate Grand Plattner's chest. That's the Nazi SS death head tattoo. Do you have any opinions on that?
If it's what you say, if it's a Nazi symbol,
Mm-hmm.
we oppose Nazis.
We oppose, I agree, we do oppose Nazis. Do you think if somebody got a Nazi tattoo on their chest, that's indicative that they might be a Nazi?
You'd have to ask Mr. Plattner why he has that symbol. I've already said that if it is a symbol of Nazism, we oppose Nazis.
You don't think that that's indicative that perhaps he holds Nazi sentiments?
It may well be.
It may well be. I think, do people who aren't Nazis normally get Nazi tattoos on their chest?
Again, I assume they don't.
You assume they don't? I would assume so too. I don't know anybody who's not a Nazi. I don't know anybody who has a Nazi tattoo on their chest but is not a Nazi. Do you?
No.
Do you think that somebody who has a Nazi tattoo on their chest should serve in the United States Senate?
I wouldn't vote for that person.
I certainly wouldn't either. Do you think that this should disqualify him politically from serving in the Senate?
Again, I'm not sure where the line of questions.
I actually don't think it should disqualify him.
The SPLC, if you're asking me, I'm sorry.
I actually, I mean, I'm sure this is unpopular opinion, but I don't think it should disqualify him. I mean, we are in America. People can get whatever type of tattoos they want. If he wants a big swastika on his chest, that's his body. He can do that. And he has every right, if he's a legal American citizen, to run for whatever he wants. So I don't think that that should disqualify him. If that's what we the people decide to vote for, that's on us. But I do not think that somebody's tattoo should disqualify them from being in Congress or being a candidate for Congress.
Go ahead.
If you're asking me if the SPLC opposes Nazis and Nazi symbols, the answer is yes.
Yep. The SPLC has referred to this same tattoo as a racist skinhead symbol and tattoo. You can see the resemblance there. You wouldn't want somebody with a tattoo like that in the Senate?
No.
No, I wouldn't either. I appreciate your candor there. Got a couple other questions. Shifting gears a little bit, your organization said that restricting and banning abortion is a tool of that the far right uses to maintain white supremacy. Do you believe that pro-lifers are white supremacists?
I believe that reproductive liberty is...
No, do you believe that pro-lifers are white supremacists?
I will tell you what I believe if you're asking.
Yes or no?
I can't answer that question, yes or no.
I don't think that pro-lifers are white supremacists. Do you?
What I think is that reproductive liberty is a right that every woman should enjoy.
How many babies in the United States that are aborted are black? About 40% of abortions nationwide are of black babies. Blacks represent about 13% of the population. Does that sound like something a white supremacist would oppose?
What I would say again is that SPLC supports reproductive liberty.
Calling somebody a white supremacist is a pretty serious charge, isn't it? I would think you would be able to defend that if your organization says that. You clearly seem unable to.
Mr. Gill, I'm not sure why you would think I'm able to do anything.
Because you're the president of the SPLC, which labels pro-lifers as racists.
Well,
does your organization just hurl around epithets like that without any justification?
Mr. Gill, what we do is
I'm giving you the opportunity to
You're not giving me the
Mr. Chairman, what's he referring to? And can he let the witness answer the question? This is outrageous.
No, it's not. The time
Allow
belongs.
him to speak.
I know you don't like my
What are you
question.
referring to?
Time
I know you
belongs.
don't like my question.
What are you referring to,
Time
Mr. Gill?
belongs to the gentleman from
My time
Texas.
here.
It's now expired, but he will be able to ask his last question, and we'll give the witness a chance to respond.
All right, I'll give my last question to Dr. King. Dr. King, are pro-lifers white supremacists?
Pro-lifers cannot be white supremacists. Pro-lifers believe in life from the womb to the tomb and beyond. Pro-lifers fight for every baby in the womb, regardless of skin color. We have been aborted as blacks in America disproportionately. And so the white supremacists are Planned Parenthood, who admitted that they do have racist underpinning with an agenda to reduce the black population by abortion.
That's right. Thank you, Dr. King.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, regardless if you believe in abortion or not, that's another topic. But the fact of the matter that everybody needs to understand is why Planned Parenthood was created and the premise behind it. And this has been talked about, and this is like a known fact in history. Margaret Sanger, she was a birth control advocate that founded Planned Parenthood. And she just genuinely has a complicated legacy when it comes to race and eugenics. And this is debated on. Like, historians will go back and forth and debate what Sanger's actual intentions were. But the fact of the matter is she purposely cultivated Planned Parenthood where it was placed in prominently black neighborhoods. And there was something in 1939, it was called the Negro Project. And the Negro Project was supposed to expand birth control access in black communities. And there was a letter that she wrote. And what it said, the now infamous line about not wanting word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. So that was in a letter that she wrote about why Planned Parenthood facilities were being placed in black communities. So, I mean, like I said, this is something that historians have debated over. But it looks like that Margaret Sanger, when she founded Planned Parenthood, one of the intentions was to place the facilities in prominently black neighborhoods. And you can fill in the dots from there.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate that the long time you've been here, but thank you for participating. And let me read something here. We thank our witness. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witnesses or additional materials for the record. Without objection, the hearing is adjourned.
Could I just introduce one last UC? This is from The Nation, the long history of the anti-abortion movement's links to white supremacists.
Well, YouTube, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you for spending your Saturday night streaming with me and finishing up the SPLC hearing. And I will see you later this week. I hope everybody has a great weekend.